dictating time in Europe. It was not only an age of great invention, but a social change that also led to a rise in all sorts of entertainment, from reading to museum to travel, and finding himself in the middle of the hatred. Gutenberg arrived in England in 1771 and immediately went to work as a set designer at the famous Village Theatre in London. From his first shows, Gutenberg showed a knack for imagination and stage design, allowing the interest of creating illusions that allowed the audience to suspend disbelief completely. He accomplished it by giving the stage a greater feeling of depth, which he did by cutting out some of the rigid background scenery and placing it at various angles and distances from the audience. Another realistic touch was using three-dimensional object-painted scenery, like rocks and bushes, as opposed to two-dimensional painted scenery. He also paid much more attention to lighting and sound than had been done before. Now, these sets were so elaborate that many people attended the theater more for them than were the actors or stories. At the time, people were wild for travel and for experiencing new places, but not everyone could afford it. Rutenberg outdid himself, however, with a show that he set up in his own home. He called it Idefusken. Idefusken means something like representation of nature, and that's exactly what he intended to do, create realistic moving machines that change before the audience's eye. In this, he synthesized all his tricks from drawing, mechanical motion, sound, light, and special effects to create, if you will, an array multimedia production. For the Ayahuasca was Rudenberg's attempt to release painting from the constraints of the picture frame. Even though the marked action for action painting can represent only one moment in time, and any illusion of movement is gone after the first glance. But Rudenberg, like other contemporary painters, wanted to add the dimension of time on his paintings. The popular thinking is that Rutenberg was influenced by landscape painting, but the idea Fuscan actually influenced the painters. The village we consider is more, it was more of the mutual thing. We know, for example, that the important English language attended almost all the performances, and his later paintings are notable for their increased color and dynamic influence on the theater zone. Writing and sound as a unified feature of the stage can easily be seen in English theater's subsequent emphasis on writing and motion. Now, the Eidfuskan stage was actually a box a few meters wide, a couple meters tall, and a couple meters deep. That is, the action took place within this box. This was much smaller, of course, than the usual stage, but it also allowed Rutenberg to concentrate the lighting to better effect. Also, the audience was in the dark, which wouldn't be a common feature of the theater until 100 years later. The show consisted of a series of scenes, for example, a view of London from sunrise that changes as it moves on. Mechanical figures, such as a cattle, moved across the scene and ships sailed along the river. But what really got people was the attention to detail, much like his work in Drury Lane. So, for example, he painted very realistic ships and varied their size depending on their distance from the audience. Small boats moved more quickly across the foreground than the larger ones did that were closer to the horizon. As a effect, like waves were also very convincing. They reflected sunlight or moonlight depending on the time of the day or night. Even the colors changed as they would in nature. Sound and light were important in making his production realistic. He used a great number of lights, and he was able to change color of light by using various recolored pieces of glass to create an effect like passing clouds that suddenly change in color. Furthermore, he used the effect to make patterns of shadow and light rather than using the uniform lighting that was common at the time. And many of the sound effects he pioneered are still in use today, like creating thunder by playing on one of the corners of a thin copper sheet. One of his popular scenes was a storm. And there is a story that one occasion an actual storm passed overhead during the show, and some people went outside and they claimed the Rutenbau's thunder was actually better than the real thunder.